Vanity metrics are easy to measure. They're glossy, they're shiny, but they don't always tell the full picture. Not all traffic is good. We want to be specific in the audience that we attract. And when we bring them to our website, that they take the actions we want them to do.
Maybe you know this, but maybe you don't. There are people out there with millions of followers on social media, and they're making sweet fuck all when it comes to money. So if you see somebody who's bragging about their follower count, or maybe you're the one that's bragging about your follower count, just know that maybe the clients are still not coming in, and maybe you're still having to scramble for them. Because here's the thing, those vanity metrics, they're like empty calories. They look good on the surface, but they leave your business freaking starving. So obsessing over likes and website hits feels gratifying. That's the dopamine. That's what I'm learning about in terms of neuroscience. That's dopamine at work. It's doing its best to get you to keep coming back and keep posting and keep doing the things, but it doesn't move the needle in your business if no one buys. Worse, it can attract the wrong crowd and drown your real opportunities in a flood of useless, noisy traffic that literally just takes over. I've been there, truly, and I've coached countless entrepreneurs who pour their energy into the wrong numbers. Instead of focusing on true conversion, like getting the right clients in the door and taking action, they're chasing that dopamine hit from social media, and it doesn't do you any favors. And that's why I'm so super excited to introduce today's guest. Matt Lubaroff is a StoryBrand Certified coach just like me, but Matt also is a specialist in Google Analytics 4 and he is HubSpot certified. By his own admission, he's a certifiable marketing measurement fanatic. He believes nobody should ever wonder about the effectiveness of their marketing, and I totally agree with him. In this episode of the Master Your Business podcast, Matt and I tear down the myths around vanity metrics and reveal how to track what actually, really, genuinely, truly matters. You will discover how to identify toxic traffic, choose the right channels, measure engagement effectively, and set up a simple dashboard that makes your data actionable. So by the end of the show, you'll know exactly what to watch, what to measure, what to ignore, and how to turn those numbers into growth. You ready? Matt, welcome to the Master Your Business podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, let's kick things off a little simply, Matt, and start with why do so many entrepreneurs obsess over vanity metrics, and what are they missing out on when they do?
Well, I think vanity metrics are easy to measure. They're glossy, they're shiny, but they don't always tell the full picture. So what they're missing out is we say the devil is in the details. And the details that matter are you taking what I would call the top of the funnel traffic and moving them through so they take the actions you want them to do? Where are they coming from? Which channels? Social media is everything these days. Do you know which social media platforms are working for you? Which ones are working against you? Not all traffic is good traffic, right? We used to say, or sometimes we say, there's no such thing as bad press. Well, there is from a marketing perspective. We want to be specific in the audience that we attract. And when we bring them to our website, we bring them to our storefront, that they take the actions we want them to do. So they engage with us, and then we can enrich them through the content we deliver.
Oh, that's such a really nice way to explain and describe it. And just in case there's somebody listening who doesn't understand fully, what does top of funnel mean? Will you explain that for me first, please, in your words?
Yeah. So if you think of an audience, your website is a storefront. Top of the funnel is everyone that comes to your store. They open the door and they walk in and they start to look around. And most marketing, most companies, most businesses, most individuals spend a lot of time and money widening that, bringing more people to the website, getting more people to their storefront. But if you picture yourself in a store and you have 1,000 people walk through your front door and 990 of them look in, go, oh, this isn't the store I thought it was, or this isn't the store for me, and they turn around and walk out the door within 5 seconds, that's not good traffic. You'd much rather get 100 people that walk in the door. When they walk in the door, they look at it and they go, oh, this is the store that I need. This is the place that I want to use to solve my problems. And 90 of them make a purchase. So what's better? Not, 10 out of 1,000 or 90 out of 100?
Oh,
I'll
I
take the
definitely
90
take
out
the
of 100.
90 out of the 100 every day of the week there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's say, so sometimes, and I hear this a lot from clients, especially people who are, maybe haven't been doing marketing and they've been relying on word of mouth or referrals or networking as their marketing strategy. And so sometimes what I see happening is that they use social media and website traffic just as the only metrics that they use to measure success. So, what other hidden dangers are there if they're doing that, Matt?
Well, we're social media is interesting because we're just not in control of the algorithm, right?
Mhm.
We can impact by the content that we share, but we don't necessarily get to control who views it. They scroll, do they click, do they read? And so it becomes negative traffic. One of the things that I like to look at when I look at traffic sources is where are those hidden pieces of referral traffic? There's websites, there's blogs, there's bots, there's you name it that can drive traffic to our website that's not healthy traffic. So some of those behind the scenes, maybe they don't give you a ton of traffic, but that can actually negatively impact you because the World Wide Web, the world as we know it, social media likes to penalize what we call it's called toxic backlinks is the technical term. And so understanding where the good traffic is coming from, so we lean into it, understanding where the bad traffic is coming from, so we can move away from it, can be a real quick and easy way to ensure that we're inviting the right people into our front door.
Hmm. And so if those people are using their likes and their followers and their website traffic as the measure of success, and by those people, I mean my lovely listeners who are probably coaches, consultants, or some form of service providers, what core metrics should they be tracking and how often should they be looking at them?
So I look at a minimum, you should be looking monthly. I look at the 4 or 5 questions that I'm going to ask myself or any business. Do you know where your traffic is coming from? Is it direct traffic, meaning people are typing in your website directly? Are they searching for a term? They're searching for lawn service near me, or esthetician near me, or marketing coach near me. So are they coming through Google Search Console or whatever internet browser they're finding? Are they referral traffic? If you are a blogger or you're a social media influencer, are those efforts getting people to your website? And then how are they engaging on your website? So I want to know overall, are they visiting a lot of my pages? Are they spending a good amount of time on my website? Maybe which pages they're spending time on? Or are they coming and they're leaving? Are they engaging with me? So engagement is generally defined as, are they there on your site for about a minute? Or are they going from the page they landed on to a second page or a third page? Are they scrolling on your page? So if you're a content developer, you want to know you spent a lot of time writing the article or producing the video. Do they getting to the bottom or are they getting halfway? So how are people engaging with your site? Which of your marketing efforts are most effective? You mentioned how often. If I'm running maybe I'm selling something and I'm using social media to get people, I'm running a buy one, get one free or 50% off when you buy a third, and it's a time sensitive campaign. Well, I'm probably going to look daily because I have the ability to tweak what's working, which ad is working well, which ad is not working well, which platform is working well. And then if you're not looking at the specific actions that people are taking on your site. We want them to click a button. We want them to fill out a form. We want them to schedule a meeting. We want them to buy something. If you don't know whether they're doing that and who is doing it and which of those marketing dollars that you're spending are effective, then you're missing out on the really, really good information that can help you make smarter and more effective decisions.
And I hear it so often, like, how do I know which of my marketing, well, they don't say dollars here all of the time, but a lot of the listeners we have are in the US. So my US listeners might say dollars, but how do I know, like, where this is the question that people ask me, and I'll steer them in particular ways, but it's like, what metrics help me understand whether my marketing is actually driving revenue or if I'm just creating content for content's sake? Because a lot of the marketing that I work with clients on tends to be organic marketing. I will send them to a specialist if they're going to do any paid ads or anything like that, because it's not my forte. So for the organic stuff specifically, Matt, how do they know if it's truly driving revenue?
So I'm a big fan of Google Analytics. It's the biggest, it's free, and free is always good. And Google will qualify your traffic and it'll give it a channel. It'll say direct traffic, which is right. They see your company and they go right to your website. But in your instance, if you're working on search, organic traffic, you need to know which pages, which words are driving that organic search traffic. And that means if I type in some of those keywords that I'm targeting or you're working on with your clients to target, is my website showing up? And what position? If you think of your own experience, whatever browser you're using, whatever search engine you're using, we generally don't scroll past the third or fourth or fifth result on the search engine results. And
Mm.
so are you showing up there? If not, how do we change our content? How do we change the structure of our website to make sure that we're showing up in those top results? And then if you're showing up, are they clicking? If you're showing up number 3 and no one is clicking on your website, then there's opportunities to refine the structure of your website, the structure of what shows up on those search results, so that people that say, oh, this is a problem I have, that number 3, that number 2, that number 4 result in my search engine results, they solve my problem. They're speaking to me as an individual, and I want them to be my solution provider. And your analytics software allows you to dive into that, whether it's Google Analytics, there's another Google free tool called Search Console, which combines the search results and gives you that information as to where you're showing and how many clicks you're showing. And then if you want to dive even deeper, there's lots of paid tools that will show you how you compare against your competitors. So it just depends on how much effort, but the information is there. And since we're being honest, it's in many ways marketing malpractice to not look into it and not understand the results you're getting.
And I totally agree. And Google Analytics, it can seem really daunting when you log into it, right? And it's kind of hard to know until you've played with it for a while. What are you clicking on and what are you learning, or what is the data telling you? So, in terms of metrics, like, what would you say are the top three metrics that you might look at, or with your clients when you're assessing the marketing return on investment, be it on, somebody's website or social media or any other type of marketing? What are the top three metrics?
I look at, I mean, the obvious one is the top of that funnel. How many people are coming to my website? And I want to know by channel. I also want to look at engagement rate, and that's that engagement rate. Are they interacting with my site? A long time ago, the popular term was called bounce rate, which is exactly what you think it is, right? I come to my website and I don't do anything and I leave. These days, with as many ways that we can access the internet, we all have like 17 tabs open at the same time and saved on the phone. And we want to know, am I active? Am I actively engaging? And then I look at conversions, and conversions can mean I always start with the end in mind when I look at building measurements is what's the one action you want your visitors to take on the website? Is it a button click? Is it a meeting? Is it a purchase? And that's the number one thing that I look at. How many people, what's the percentage of my traffic that are taking the action or actions that I want them to, and where are they coming from? And this goes back to, this is the cross reference, 90 out of 100 or 10 out of 1,000. I'm going to lean into the 90 out of 100 and I'm going to lean away from the 10 out of 1,000. Because if I convert good traffic at 90%, then those are the people I need to find and I want to invite more. And it becomes this wonderful marketing mix. You mentioned analytics being a difficult tool to dive into, and yeah, it is. And it's what got me, it's where I started to lean in when Google Analytics 4 took over for what we used to call universal analytics. And one of the things that I help businesses do is create really easy to understand dashboards with another free Google tool. I use what's called Google Looker Studio. Because if we set it up once and we paint the picture that we want to paint in a way that makes it easy for an individual or a business to understand and pull the information that we want, we build a dashboard and it ties directly to my live data. And I don't have to go in and click a bunch of buttons and figure out which report tells me which, because it can be overwhelming, it can be intimidating. And when things are overwhelming and intimidating, people just don't do it. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I specialize in, one of the things that I've leaned into are working with companies to understand what they want to measure and to provide them a really, really easy way to understand it. If we think of PowerPoint, which I don't know if anybody actually still uses anymore, imagine a PowerPoint chart or graph that's tied to your live data that you can just look at and quickly say, this is what's working, this is not what's working, this is where my good traffic is coming from, and I can make a much smarter marketing decision.
Oh, that's like amazing. Just even having a dashboard and knowing that it's there, one that's set up for you that is like measuring what you want to measure. I love the thoughts of that. I might be having a separate offline conversation with you about that, Matt, just for myself, because I see Google Analytics and like to your point, it's like, ugh. And I do have some dashboards set up, but it makes me want to bury my head in the sand when I look at it. It's just not a nice user-friendly platform, I think. But I have to say, hats off to Google because they do provide an awful lot of free metrics and services and tools, like even for people building AI apps and things like that now, building out apps that you can use their Firebase tool, and there's loads of other things you can use and host on for free, which is incredible. But let's talk about that lead generation and the top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel stuff. So the top of funnel is where the traffic is coming. The middle of funnel is probably where they're engaging with the brand a little bit more, and the bottom of funnel is where they're converting. So, using Google Analytics or another tool, what metrics help you know if there's a leaky funnel or if something is actually converting? What should people be looking out for on that?
So when we break our traffic out by those different channels, the top of the funnel, we look at in time periods, where is traffic jumping up or jumping down based on a particular channel. And if we see a yes, then I start to dive into the why. And that's where that engagement comes in. And I look at pages. I'll give an example of an insurance company client of mine where for the longest time, we were, for certain search terms that we were targeting, we were coming up really and generating a ton of traffic for these search terms. They were driving to two specific blog articles, but it was bad traffic. And we finally made the decision, we're getting more traffic to these two pages than our homepage, than our e-commerce sites, but everyone's leaving. No one's engaging in the site. So we took the blog articles down. And so that was an example of where not all good traffic is good traffic. And we made a strategic decision to just remove content because it wasn't, while it was driving traffic, it was the wrong traffic. So I look at those types of metrics from that top of the funnel. And then engagement can be a lot of things. Engagement, as I mentioned, if you're a content provider, are they scrolling? If the average time on my blog article or blog site is maybe 30 seconds, really no one, I mean, that's not effective. We want to see 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. We can look at, as I mentioned earlier, scroll percentage. If they're going to my blog and the average scroll is 40%, they're not reading the full article. So I can look at actions I can take on my blog article or the title, right? Am I using the right words in my title so I show up in the right places? I can look at the content. How am I writing it? Do I just want people to write or to read, or do I want them to take an action? So I look at those traffic statistics, and then if I want them to schedule a meeting and they get to my schedule a meeting page, but they don't actually schedule a meeting, well, then maybe I need to look at my calls to action, or I need to look at the emotion. Did I invite them into the story loop effectively so that they want to take that action? When they are taking the action, I'm going to look and see what works. Wow, this page is converting at a much higher rate. Why? And I start to build again, where are they coming from? Top of the funnel. They're engaging with me. Yes, no. And are they taking the converting action? And I glean the lessons that I can from what's working and what's not working. Does that answer that question?
Yes, and it's very smart and simple when you know how and when you have the dashboard set up. I'm sure easier than otherwise going down a needle with a haystack into Google Analytics 4. I was going to say GA4 because that's what it can feel like, folks. If you've never looked at it and are wondering what it is, it's not a nice looking tool. But there's so much data there, just like you've said, Matt. And there's a lot of different metrics, and it's no different than any type of metrics for your business. And again, like a question I get asked so often, and I've built out a dashboard for my clients as well, is what are the KPIs that I should be measuring, right? And I'd love to hear from you, like what's one metric that's so wildly underrated, but could be a gold mine for service providers that they're probably not even aware of?
So to answer the question of what is the hidden gem and the metric that can tell me a lot more, I'm going to give you three, which and I know it's not one, but they're all related. And KPIs I look at is one of the first ones is the website sessions that are derived from my marketing activities. I really don't look at direct traffic. I don't know how they got there. I want to know there are certain things that I'm doing as a company, as a marketer. And so I want to only look at the website sessions that are coming from my specific marketing activities. So Deirdre, you mentioned that you spend a lot of time focusing with your clients on how they show up in search. That is a marketing activity. That is a concerted effort to generate a website and create content that generates increased traffic from how people are searching. You mentioned people that might do Google Ads. If that is my number one traffic acquisition tool or conversion activation tool, I want to look at the traffic and effectiveness from that. And if you do more than one thing, if you do social media, if you have built up a referral network of sites, I want to only look at the website sessions for my marketing activities, because direct traffic doesn't tell me anything. I can't lean into direct traffic. So I don't ignore it, but I just put it over here to the side, and I focus my viewpoint as to only the website traffic and conversion traffic that I'm getting from my activities. For you and for your clients where you are focusing on search traffic, I only want to look at the keywords or the times that my site are showing up in the top three. With mobile, right? We're a mobile friendly society. People aren't going to scroll. If you're not within the top 1, 2, or 3, you're not wasting your efforts, but you're not reaching the effective audience, or reaching the audience in an effective way. And then, the last one is I take the search impressions, the keywords, search impressions where I show up, and I remove my website. If my company is clear insight marketing, if they're searching for clear insight marketing, obviously I should show up. That doesn't tell me anything. So I want to know where my company is showing up for what other search terms, and I eliminate. So the hidden gems are eliminating the obvious, eliminating the things you have no control over, and only looking at the things that you are controlling. Because otherwise you just look at traffic and say, yay, my traffic is up, or oh, boo, my traffic is down. But if we're looking at the wrong numbers, we're not actually informing ourselves.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And even with podcasts, like I don't know if you know this, but listeners probably don't, is when somebody listens to a podcast episode, that's called a download. But you can also see what's the engagement on the podcast. So I can tell if people are listening right the way till the end or if they're cutting off, after the intro or halfway through. So I'm like, no pressure, but you have to keep the podcast exciting.
Yes.
So, but it's kind of the same thing in terms of website. If somebody's on the website or the blog, it needs to be compelling enough so that they stay there and engage right till the end, right? So it's similar. There's ways to measure all of these things.
Yeah. And as I think through that and you describe your podcast experience, boy, I probably would look at engage if I had to choose one number, right? Because so much of it is customizable and so much of it is based on what action you want them to take when they walk in your store. I want to look at engagement rate. If they're not engaging, if I bring them to my storefront and they're not spending time in my store or on my store, then I'm not effectively engaging with my audience. And so the one number I probably would put above all else is engagement rate.
And I like to extend to that. We're going to allow you to have 3 to 5 numbers, Matt. So if
Okay.
you were creating like a minimum viable dashboard, engagement rate would be number one. What are the other two, three, four that you would absolutely insist that somebody would have for their kind of MVP dashboard?
I like to look at new contacts, right? So I get 1,000 visitors, and if 800 of them are return visitors, while that's great, I also am trying to, right? We're expanding the top of the funnel. So I want to know the percentage of my traffic that is new, that's coming to me for the first time. I will admit that can be challenging these days with more and more privacy browsers and cookie settings that we have to accept. So you will never get exact. Google is never exact. I hate to break it to everyone. We like to think that Google Analytics is our source of truth. It's our source of pretty good truth because people don't like to be tracked, right? DuckDuckGo is popular over in the United States. I'm sure there are other privacy browsers that are more and more popular over in Europe. And then people just, because we have to allow people to accept or reject cookies, people don't like to traffic to be, they don't want to be tracked. However, we still get a general theme for repeat traffic, new traffic. We want to try to expand new traffic. So I'm going to look at that. And then I'm going to generally set up a few different conversions because well, I love to look, I love to dive into the data. And I know that if they didn't purchase, there's still an action that they can take that tells me they are interested in learning more. Maybe there's a downloadable guide that I've created, right? And while that kicks off the lead generating series of emails that they're going to get from me that will convert, I want to know out of my visitors that saw the form and saw my offer for free, what's the percentage? And I'm going to try to increase that percentage. Again, if I invite people to my storefront and they don't take the action, even if it's not a purchase, we do all these things to try to capture more and more visitors because that helps us, right? Once they've said, yes, I like you. Yes, I like your content. I find you engaging. I'm not ready to marry you yet, but I'd like to go on a second date. We have a lot of different ways to target them with second dates. Some website systems can allow you to customize the message for repeat visitors. If I tie it to my customer database, my CRM, and they say, "Oh, Deirdre's been here before. I'm going to show her a different message." You can use Google advertising, right? So I say, I want to go back at them. I want to remarket to that visitor who came to my website and didn't purchase. I can create these custom audiences and say, oh, hey, Deirdre, you've been to my website and you downloaded this form, but you haven't purchased yet. So I'm going to give you an offer. If I'm selling something, maybe I say, hey, 10% off for the first month, or that's that buy 1 second free. So when I gather information, when I when I know who they are, then I get to go back at them and retarget them.
Hmm. So some of those 3 to 5 up for me, Matt. What were they?
Yeah. I kind of I went on a I lost my train of thought there.
No, but it was good.
Apologize.
It was really
Yeah.
valuable.
So I'm going to look at the success rate of my conversions.
Yeah.
So I want to know that got here and what's the percentage of them that viewed the form, that filled out the form, the percentage of people that purchased. If
Hmm.
I am if I sell a lot of items, if I want people to buy one item, do I have add-ons that they can buy? So I might look at the average purchase value, the total purchase, or the number of items they purchased, so I can get a feel for how effective is my e-commerce strategy. And maybe I look at which channels, again, this goes back to understanding the channels that are effective. So to summarize, the top three things other than the effectiveness of my top of the funnel, I want to know percentage success of my various conversions. I want to look at the average number. If I'm an e-commerce store, what's the average number of items purchased? What's the average value of my shopping cart? And then the last one really comes down to how far down, if you're not an e-commerce store, what's the furthest they can get along the path to engaging with you. And I'm going to measure those items and I'm going to compare them to which channels are effective.
Interesting. Okay, that's a really useful and helpful to know, I think. And I guess I'm curious if, as a business grows, like a lot of the businesses I work with, it's to help them hit their first 100K or their first million. And so listeners are probably in that space. They're aiming for their first 100K or their first million or a little bit beyond. And as their business evolves and their marketing starts to evolve and grow with them, what should they start delegating when it comes to marketing and metrics, in your view?
They should delegate the details, right? So if I'm at the highest level, chief marketing officer, CEO, just flat out owner of the company, I want my people to tell me at the drop of a hat, what are we doing that's working? What are we doing that's not working? And what are we going to do to maximize what's working? So if it is social, if my business is, if I'm a social influencer and most of my effective traffic comes from social, I need to delegate the social activities that are consistent with what has worked and double down. Because if I'm running a company, I don't have the ability and the time and the effort to spend all of that time creating social posts and social traffic. I may work with you so that you understand the brand that I've built, the messaging that we want to lean into. I'm going to give you the secrets that worked well, but I have to delegate that. If I'm running Google Ads, I don't have the time as the leader of the company to dive into the granular detail of which search words are positive, which search words are negative, and all that down in the weed stuff. I need to build a trusted team who can come back to me and answer that question of what's working well. Are we leaning into it? So that I, as the leader of the company, have the confidence to know that my team is armed with effective data and armed with the ability and the confidence to do more of what's working and less of what's not.
And Matt, I don't know if you get this or if it's happened to you, or if you've come across it, but what would you say to someone who just says, I'm not a numbers person, I just go with my gut on these things?
I would say,
Well, that says it
I would say, just give me $100 now, because it's no different. It's no different. Going with your gut, you might be brilliant. I go with my gut a lot, but then I measure to see if my gut is right. And you know what? 80% of the time I've been right, but 20% of the time I've been close to right, if not wrong. Money is too scarce, customers are too important to run the risk of only relying on your gut and not arming yourself quickly and easily, and in many cases for free, with the information that confirms or denies whether your gut is the right way. And that's really hard for small businesses that started off as a one-person shop and have now grown to a five-person shop or gone from 100 to a million. If you really want to hockey stick your growth, right? We all try to have a positive growth trajectory, but the key to true success is being able to be more efficient and make that growth trajectory look a little bit more like this. And that comes from being smart, and that comes from being efficient, and that comes from being able to lead but delegate and
Mm.
empower your people to do the right things, but also hold them accountable. If they're doing the wrong things and they're not doing the right things, then those are the questions that we get to ask.
And let's say that someone gets the data and they're looking to analyze it themselves and they're just not really sure how to make sense of what the data is telling them. Maybe they're bootstrapped and they can't afford to hire you or me just yet. Where would you suggest that they go to get a better understanding of what Google Analytics is telling them and other tools like that?
So I've taught myself a lot of stuff for free. YouTube is a wonderful solution, and there's a lot of solution providers out there. So just like search traffic, I'm going to look at reviews of videos. I'm going to look at traffic. I'm going to follow the blog articles of folks that are recommended. There's some great industry experts, at least in the United States. There's a search engine blog. I think his name is Seth Godin. And I'm blanking on some of the other names. But if they're popular, there's a reason that they're popular and people read them a lot. So I'm going to find different ways to digest information and learn the way you learn best. If you learn by videos, watch a video. If you learn by doing, do it. Obviously, I would love it if they called me. I'm happy to help them. But there's amazing, amazing tools on the internet where you can start to learn yourself and just the great thing about data is you can't break it, right? It's there. You're not going to break your website just by looking at it. And you'll learn slowly how to use these tools and what is effective. Heck, if you have a university or a college that's close by, contact the marketing professor and say, hey, do you have any students that want to do an internship for free? And I'll give them a great project. I'll be a great recommended referral for them, but I need someone to come teach me something. And that could be a really cheap, fun, inexpensive way to learn and provide an opportunity for a student.
Oh, what a great idea. And like being of service and getting service all in the same vein. I love that idea. Matt, what else have you not shared yet that you think Deirdre's listeners really need to know this?
Well, for me, data is fun. I look at data as a challenge and I don't like unanswered questions. So most of my learning has been driven by my dissatisfaction with not being able to get the answers that I wanted to make smarter marketing decisions. So my passion is to do that. It lights me up. It gives me great joy to work with a client who comes up with a challenge that's frustrating them. And I either get to solve it for them quickly or I get to go away and figure out how to solve it for them and come back and give them the answers. And, I'll, and so that is a passion of mine. That's a joy that I have. And I'd love to be able to help because boy, we work so hard. So many small businesses out there, medium-sized businesses, large businesses provide amazing solutions to their customers. And they just to know that they don't understand what's working, or maybe they're reaching the wrong audience and they aren't successful in a way that makes our world better. I don't like to see that. So I get great joy of helping people find their people, helping people expand their tribe, because when they do, everyone's happier. They're happier, their customers are happier. We all deserve to smile a little bit more these days.
Too right. Too right. I love that. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. It's been educational and fun and interesting. Who knew Google Analytics could be so interesting? Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Where can people find you and how can they get a hold of you if they want to avail of your services?
People can come to my website. It's clearinsightmarketing.com. If they want to email me, my email address is matt@mattlubaroff.com. I will spell that. And that last name is Lub as in boy, Aroff as in Frank. So come to my website, look around, schedule a meeting, email me, and let's have a conversation.
Fantastic. And I'll share your details in the show notes as well, so people will be able to click on them there for convenience too. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Deirdre.
Okay, let's recap. First, stop counting likes and start counting impact. Bringing in the wrong people doesn't help anyone. Second, measure engagement, how long visitors stay on your website, which pages they read, what actions they take. And what we didn't actually talk about was for social media, you can measure that too. So things like saves and shares or reposts on LinkedIn, that's engagement. And those are the types of things to be measuring over there as well. Third, build a simple dashboard to track the numbers that actually drive the revenue. Data doesn't have to be scary if you focus on the essentials. So here's your action for today. Define the one action that you want visitors to take on your site and start tracking how many times they actually do it or how many of them do it versus how many show up. And if you don't know, your marketing is kind of blindfolded. So, figure it out. And if you need help figuring it out, be sure and go and check out Matt. He shared some fantastic insights today. So please share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who's drowning in analytics or number confusion. Or if you yourself are ready to turn your metrics into momentum, be sure to connect with Matt and reach out to him at clearinsightmarketing.com or email him at matt@mattlubaroff.com. Finally, don't forget to rate and review the Master Your Business podcast. Your feedback helps more coaches, consultants, and solo entrepreneurs thrive on real results and not vanity metrics. So until next time, keep mastering your business.